The arena floor was still warm from the previous fight. Blood, some red, some not, stained the packed dirt in dark patches that hadn't yet dried. Above, thousands of voices roared, a sound that pressed down like atmospheric pressure, demanding violence, demanding death. She stood in the center of it all, breathing hard. Her name was Kresh'tar, champion of the Meridian sector, undefeated in 47 bouts. Her skin bore the distinctive deep violet of her people, crossed with scars that told stories of survival. The biosynthetic armor fused to her shoulders and forearms gleamed dully under the harsh arena lights. She'd killed her last opponent in under 3 minutes. The crowd wanted more. She looked up at the viewing platforms where the wealthy sat behind shimmering force fields, sipping drinks worth more than a year's rations in the lower districts. Somewhere up there, her contract holder was already negotiating her next fight, already calculating profit margins on her blood. The gate opposite her began to rise with a mechanical groan. Kresh'tar's muscles tensed. This was how it worked. Fight until you couldn't, win until you lost, die in the dirt while thousands cheered. The figure that emerged through the gate was small, wrong, completely wrong. He wore no armor, no weapons, just simple gray clothing that looked nothing like combat gear. His skin was pale, that strange peachy tone of humans, and his hair was dark brown, cut short and neat. He carried something rectangular under one arm, a datapad, she realized. He was carrying a datapad into an arena fight. The crowd's roar shifted to confusion, then cruel laughter. The human walked toward the center of the arena. Not a fighter's walk, just a normal walk, like he was heading to a meeting. He stopped about 10 meters from her and adjusted the small transparent lenses perched on his nose. "Excuse me," he called out. His voice was calm, polite. "I think there's been a terrible mistake." Kresh'tar lowered her fighting stance slightly. In all her years, nothing like this had ever happened. "They told me this was the administrative office," the human continued, looking around the arena with what appeared to be genuine confusion. "I'm here to audit the facility's financial records. I'm an accountant." He said that last word like it explained everything. The viewing platforms erupted in laughter. Below them, enforcement guards in black armor moved along the arena perimeter, weapons ready. They weren't laughing. They were waiting to see what she would do. Kresh'tar knew the rules. Refuse to fight, and they'd execute her in the cell block. Worse, they'd sell her contract to the mining colonies where death took years instead of seconds. She looked at the human, really looked at him. He wasn't young, maybe 40 standard years, with lines around his eyes that suggested he smiled often. Right now, those eyes held nothing but polite concern, like someone had given him the wrong directions to a conference room. "You need to leave," she said. Her voice, carrying the harsh harmonics of her native language, filtered through the arena's translation field. "Now." "I would love to," the human replied earnestly. "But those doors sealed behind me. And that," he pointed up at the massive display screen showing their faces, "that says special exhibition match. I think someone's made a significant procedural error." The arena master's voice boomed across the space. "Fight or die, both of you. The entertainment begins now." The human looked up at the speakers, then back at Kresh'tar. He pushed his glasses up his nose again. "That seems like an extreme response to a filing mistake." Despite everything, Kresh'tar felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Not quite amusement, but close. "What's your name?" she asked. "Henry Novak." He held out his hand like they were at a social gathering. "And you?" "Kresh'tar." She didn't take his hand. "I'm supposed to kill you, Henry Novak. Are you?" He looked thoughtful. "Because from an ethical standpoint, that seems problematic. I'm not armed. I have no combat training. I'm actually quite terrible at physical confrontation. My performance reviews specifically mention it." Energy weapons powered up around the arena perimeter. Warning shots seared the air above their heads. "They won't let us leave until one of us is dead," Kresh'tar said flatly. Henry was quiet for a moment. Then he opened his datapad and began tapping at it. "Well, that does present a complex problem. But I've solved complex problems before." He looked up at her. "May I propose something?" The crowd was getting restless. Objects were being thrown from the upper decks. "Propose quickly," Kresh'tar said. "You're a fighter, clearly very good at it. I'm an accountant, also very good at it." Henry's eyes had sharpened, losing some of their bewildered politeness. "What if we approach this like a problem that needs solving rather than a fight that needs winning?" "I don't understand. The arena wants a show. The people paying for it want violence." He gestured at the crowd. "But what they really want is entertainment, spectacle, something worth their money." He turned his datapad around, showing her a schematic. "I accessed their financial systems while you were talking. This facility is hemorrhaging credits. Security, protocols are a mess. There are at least 15 major violations of galactic commerce regulations. And, his voice dropped, the owner is embezzling through shell corporations registered in the outer territories. Kresh'tar stared at him. So the person who runs this place, who holds your contract, who decides whether you live or die, they're going to be arrested within the hour. Henry smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who had just balanced a very complicated equation. I sent my preliminary findings to the Galactic Commerce Authority 3 minutes ago. They're very responsive to embezzlement cases. The arena master's voice came again. Final warning, fighter be terminated. Henry looked at the fighter's gates, then at the viewing platforms, then back at Kresh'tar. How would you feel about putting on a show while we wait for law enforcement to arrive? Something was happening above. Commotion in the viewing platforms. Security personnel moving quickly toward the owner's box. What kind of show? Kresh'tar asked. The kind where you demonstrate your remarkable combat abilities on training equipment instead of on me. I saw practice dummies in the preparation area when they dragged me through earlier. He gestured toward one of the equipment storage sections. You could probably destroy 3 or 4 of them quite impressively. The crowd would love it. I could provide dramatic commentary. Humans are excellent at that. You're insane. I prefer creative under pressure. It's better for my resume. Henry started walking toward the equipment storage. Come on. I promise this will work. Kresh'tar had survived 47 death matches. She'd learned to recognize opportunity, however strange its form. She followed the human accountant across the arena floor. The crowd's confusion was shifting to anger. But then Henry did something remarkable. He accessed the arena's announcement system through his datapad, and his voice boomed across the space. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings of all species. Due to an unexpected scheduling conflict, today's special exhibition will feature the undefeated champion Kresh'tar demonstrating advanced combat techniques. His voice had changed, taking on the practiced enthusiasm of a professional entertainer. Watch as she displays the power that has made her the most feared warrior in the Meridian sector. He'd reached the storage area. Heavy combat dummies used for training stood in a row. Each was designed to withstand punishment that would kill most living beings. Henry looked at her. Show them what you can do. Law enforcement would arrive, or they wouldn't. This would work, or it wouldn't. Kresh'tar had stopped believing in unlikely survival years ago. But standing next to this strange human with his datapad and his glasses and his complete refusal to accept the reality of the situation, she found herself wanting to see what happened next. She moved to the first dummy, centered herself, and struck. The impact shattered the dummy's torso, sending pieces flying across the arena floor. The crowd's anger transformed into excited roars. Incredible! Henry's voice rang out. Notice the precision, the controlled power. This is why she remains undefeated. She destroyed the second dummy with a spinning strike that showcased the biosynthetic enhancements in her armor. Then the third. By the fourth, the crowd was chanting her name. In the viewing platforms, enforcement officers were escorting the arena owner away in restraints. Henry stood beside her, narrating her every move like he'd done this 1,000 times. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're witnessing is not mere violence but artistry, the perfect marriage of strength and technique. 20 minutes later, Galactic Commerce Authority ships descended on the facility. The investigation would take months, but the arena owner's assets, including all fighter contracts, were frozen immediately. Kresh'tar found herself in a holding area with Henry, waiting for the legal process to sort itself out. Her contract holder was gone. Her future was suddenly undefined. That was excellent improvisation, Henry said, cleaning his glasses with a small cloth. You're really quite talented. You destroyed an entire criminal operation with a datapad. Well, yes, that's my job. He put his glasses back on. I audit financial systems for the Galactic Commerce Authority. When they received an anonymous tip about this facility, they sent me to investigate. The guards must have panicked when they saw my credentials and dumped me in the arena, hoping I'd die before I could report anything. He shrugged. It was poorly thought out on their part. You could have been killed, probably. Henry looked at her seriously. But you didn't kill me, even though refusing meant risking your own life. Why? Kresh'tar was quiet for a long moment. You were unarmed, untrained. It would have been murder. The crowd would have loved it. You would have survived. That's not who I am, Henry smiled. The real one this time. Warm. I thought so. I'm good at reading people. Numbers and people, that's what accounting really is. Understanding patterns and motivations and what drives behavior. He pulled up something on his datapad. Your contract is void now. You're technically free. Free. The word felt strange in her mouth. Foreign, free, Henry confirmed. Though you'll need income, housing, a legal identity in legitimate society. He hesitated. The Commerce Authority has an ongoing problem with organized crime in the outer sectors. Athletic competitions as fronts for trafficking, illegal fighting rings, gambling operations. We need field agents who understand that world from the inside. You want me to work for you? With me, not for me. Partnership. Henry's eyes were steady behind his glasses. You know violence. I know numbers. Together we could shut down operations that would take normal agents years to penetrate. You'd be saving others like you, and the pay is significantly better than arena fighting. Full benefits, pension plan. Kresh'tar looked at her scarred hands, at the biosynthetic armor she'd worn for so long she sometimes forgot what her shoulders looked like underneath. I don't know how to do anything else. You stopped yourself from killing an unarmed man even when it meant risking execution. You made a split-second decision to trust a stranger's insane plan instead of following orders that would have kept you alive. Henry stood. Kresh'tar, you already know how to do the most important parts. The rest we can teach you. The door opened. A Commerce Authority officer gestured for them to follow. Preliminary statements, both of you. Then we'll sort out your situations. Henry held out his hand again. Partners? This time Kresh'tar took it. His grip was firm despite his obvious lack of physical training. Partners. Excellent. Fair warning though. Partnership means I'm going to teach you proper spreadsheet organization. It's absolutely essential for field reports. Despite everything, Kresh'tar laughed. Really laughed. The sound echoed strangely in the corridor, unfamiliar in her own ears. They followed the officer into the facility's administrative section. Behind them, the arena sat empty and silent. Ahead, the future was uncertain. But for the first time in years, Kresh'tar walked forward as something other than a fighter. She walked forward as a person with choices. 6 months later, they raided their 5th illegal operation together. Henry handled the financial investigation from a safe distance while Kresh'tar led the tactical team through the fighting complex. The partnership worked better than anyone had expected. His careful analysis identified the targets. Her understanding of arena psychology helped them extract victims before violent resistance could endanger lives. Afterward, they sat in their rented office space reviewing case files. Henry's desk was precisely organized. Kresh'tar's was covered in tactical equipment and half-drunk beverages. You know, Henry said without looking up from his datapad, I never properly thanked you. For what? For not killing me that first day. He glanced at her. You could have, probably should have from a survival standpoint, but you didn't. Kresh'tar set down the weapons manifest she'd been reviewing. You sent that report to the Commerce Authority before you even talked to me, before you knew if I'd help you or tear you apart. Yes. Why? Henry was quiet for a moment. Because I looked at your fight record, 47 wins, but I also looked at the recordings. You always made it quick, clean. You never drew it out. Never made them suffer, even when the crowd wanted you to. He met her eyes. That told me everything I needed to know about who you really were. I gambled that you'd rather risk your life than compromise your principles. And I was right. You gambled with both our lives on a character assessment. Yes, Henry smiled slightly. But I'm very good at reading the data. And you, Kresh'tar, are an excellent person buried under terrible circumstances. I'm glad we got you out. She looked at the case files spread between them. Former fighters they'd freed, trafficking victims they'd rescued, criminal operations they'd dismantled using Henry's financial expertise and her tactical knowledge. Thank you, she said quietly, for seeing that, for giving me a choice. Thank you for taking it. Henry returned to his datapad. Now, about these expense reports you filed last week. We need to discuss proper categorization of tactical equipment versus office supplies. The flamethrower cannot be classified as a writing implement no matter how creative your justification. Kresh'tar smiled. Then she pulled up the proper forms and began reorganizing her receipts. It was tedious work, boring work. The kind of normal, everyday work that meant she was alive, free, and building something that mattered. She'd never been happier. If you have enjoyed the story, tell YouTube to send you more stories like this by subscribing to this channel, liking the video, and leaving a comment.